Why did the Jedi Order hide a Sith Shrine beneath the Temple of Coruscant? Greetings again, and welcome back to the archives, my friends. The Shrine in the Depths is one of the most important but mysterious aspects of all of canon lore. The original incarnation of the Clone Wars 7th season was going to see Ahsoka and a group of Jedi drill their way underneath the Jedi Temple, discovering the remains of a Sith temple beneath the foundation. It was a shrine to the dark side, a place of unimaginable power. But since the story arc was cancelled, we are left with only the scraps of knowledge about the shrine's existence, not a full story. And yet, it's a place in shaping galactic history and events that remains paramount. My friends, our researchers have risked their lives exploring the forbidden ruins to discover this holocron, so join us as we open it and learn the secrets of the Shrine of the Depths, the greatest symbol of the Jedi Order's failure. As we dive into this, it's going to be very important that we clear something up right away. We are about to enter the canon Old Republic era. As most of us are familiar with the Legends Old Republic, we will have to put aside all of our knowledge and expectations. What George Lucas had in mind for the Old Republic looked a lot different than what came out of Legends, and canon has actually decided to not only carry on George's vision of this, but implement a few things from Legends as well. However, the lore of the canon Old Republic is extremely obscure and largely unexplored. Very rarely do we ever get to pierce the misty veil which surrounds this era and learn any tiny scraps of knowledge. But what we do know is that George's Old Republic, the Sith were triumphant and had ruled the Republic for a very long time at some point in the distant past. This lines up with Darth Sidious says in Episode 3, when he states, "Once more, the Sith shall rule the galaxy." In the context of Legends, this doesn't entirely make sense, as the Sith have never fully gotten to grasp the galaxy except for in the very brief period where it could be argued that Nihilus had control. But in canon, the time in which the Sith ruled was absolutely gargantuan. We're not talking years, decades, or even centuries, but according to the Forbidden Histories, the year was 5,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, when Naga Sadow waged the Great Hyperspace War. The timeline split occurs here, as apparently Naga Sadow won this war in George Lucas's Old Republic. Now, whether or not it was Naga Sadow specifically, or one of his Sith that succeeded him, we don't entirely know. All we know is that after the Great Hyperspace War, or maybe during it, the Sith waged a war of annihilation against the Jedi, and they succeeded in toppling the capital world of Coruscant. The Jedi were either destroyed completely here, or they were forced off-world. And when this happened, the Sith decided to make their grand statement by constructing a shrine, one atop a mountain called the Sacred Spire. This mountain was one of the last visible peaks of the original surface of Coruscant that could be seen all over the buildings that had since swallowed and buried the natural world. The Sacred Spire was a powerful light side vergence, a nexus as it is now called. The Sith laid their shrine over the Sacred Spire with the intent of corrupting the light side vergence, tilting it towards the dark side. And, my friends, they succeeded. This would end up making the specific shrine one of the most powerful dark side sites in the history of the galaxy, and it gave the Sith that had taken the capital world the power to rule. The reign of the ancient Sith over the galaxy lasted for nearly 4,000 years. But to be incredibly precise, they reigned for 3,968 years in totality. In between these eras, Dark Lords of the Sith would rise and fall, but their reign remained secure over the entirety of the Republic. Very little is known what this era was like besides some of the technological advancements, but we do know that eventually the Jedi Order would rise again. Rebuilding their numbers, the champions of the light side returned at some point to liberate the beloved Republic, and a conflict known as the Great Sith War would begin. This is the time in the canon history that has all of the plot relevance but none of the screen time. Unfortunately, we know next to nothing of what occurred during this long war. Only what it left behind, specifically on Malachor. Around this time, the Jedi created a sect in their order known as the Jedi Crusaders. Jedi Crusaders who largely used Makashi as their chosen lightsaber form, and wielded the first known cross-guarded lightsaber. The Jedi Crusaders tracked down Darth Tannis to the world of Malachor, as she had been experimenting with kyber-powered weaponry. These types of super weapons were common among the Sith, but Tannis' temple was about to change everything. A massive battle occurred on Malachor until the super weapon was eventually activated. In an event known as the Great Scourge of Malachor, all of the Jedi and Sith in battle were instantly petrified in ashen statues. It is assumed that the spirit of Darth Tannis became the presence within the holocron in the temple, which would later be rediscovered by Ezra Bridger. But the horror of this event scarred both the Jedi and the Sith. It was after this that the records of this event and the location of Malachor were entirely expunged from the Jedi Order's archives, and the Jedi were forbidden from ever traveling there, believing it a place of great darkness. Thousands of years later, Darth Sidious would take a young Maul to the world. The Sith acolyte was utterly traumatized by the visions that he saw of the past, which gave birth to his fierce hatred for the Jedi Order. These were the types of horrors which occurred when the Sith had the power of the Shrine at their command. It gave them knowledge and secrets of the dark side, which led to the creation of horrific weapons. But the Jedi fought back as best they could. With their army of light versus the Brotherhood of Darkness, they drove back the Sith using various clever countermeasures, ones that included the development of the Light Whip, which supposedly countered the Sith's forbidden lightsaber techniques. It was finally during the year 1032 BBY that the beings known as the Four Masters would lead the Jedi Order to victory during a climactic battle against the Sith. During this great battle, the Sith were defeated at last and driven into deep hiding. Eventually, they were thought to have completely gone extinct, all except for one man by the name of Darth Bane. Meanwhile, the Four Masters would destroy the Sith Temple on Coruscant and bury what remained of it under layers of plasteel and ferrocrete, building their Jedi Temple on top of the site. The idea was the purification through suppression. This belief was that with so many light side wielders in a Temple of Light, it would neutralize and cap all the dark energies of the Sith Shrine, bring the vergence of the Sacred Spire back to the light side. Unfortunately though, their attempt at undoing what the Sith had done was completely unsuccessful, but the Jedi kept trying, and the Shrine in the Depths became the most well-guarded secret of the Jedi Council. They placed a grand meditation room right over the entryway, and only ever went down to the Shrine to purify Sith artifacts they found across the galaxy. But what they did not know was that a portion of the Sith Shrine endured, remained active. Dark energies rose up into the temple and flowered outwards, seeping through the halls of the Jedi Temple like venom in the veins of a hapless creature. The dark side power of the Shrine weakened the Jedi over the course of 1,000 years, lowering their bond to the light and blinding their vision of the future. The rule of two Sith would eventually learn that a portion of the Shrine still survived beneath the temple and made sure to guard this secret extremely well. As the Shrine continued to leak, the cloud of the Jedi grew. It got to the point where even the Council could not sense Darth Sidious, even if he was in the room with them. It should be mentioned that in canon, there is not a lot of emphasis on Sidious's own abilities of Force suppression, though he did suppress himself in canon. It is explained that the Shrine did most of the work in obscuring his true presence, a fascinating addition by George Lucas. And here we get to the three continuities taking full form, what George Lucas had in mind for the Old Republic, canon, and legends. When at long last the Sith destroyed the Jedi Order and remade the temple into the Imperial Palace, Palpatine finally got to lay eyes on the Shrine for himself. Going into the meditation room, he had a team of droids excavate the Shrine, afraid to use humans, as they would speak about it. Palpatine needed this location as secret as possible, since this was the site of great power for the Sith, a place of great history. In fact, Palpatine kept it so under wraps that he even refused to tell Darth Vader. By 14 BBY, Sidious had used the Shrine as his private sanctum, and spent much of his time meditating on the nature of the dark side. It is our own personal theory that this is where Palpatine spent the majority of his time as Emperor. Eventually, Palpatine planned on enlisting Vader's help within the Shrine to probe the dark side for its most powerful secrets. But Vader proved untrustworthy, so Sidious kept his grand secret to himself. He meditated there often, intending to unlock the potential power of reshaping reality. We don't exactly know what this entails, but apparently Sidious believed that the Shrine could give him that power, to change reality itself, warp it to his will. We believe that it was this Shrine that gave Sidious an open window into the world between worlds during Rebels. We also know that through the power of the Shrine, Sidious saw into the Force and discovered that Luke Skywalker was Darth Vader's son. Unfortunately though, as of now, we have no idea what happened to the Shrine following the fall of Sidious's empire, but the Imperial Palace is under the possession of the New Republic now, which means that Luke Skywalker would have likely explored what used to be the Jedi Temple. In any case, whether confirmed or not, Luke Skywalker should know about the Shrine in canon, as it does exist as a part of the canon lore, however unexplored. But anyway friends, this was everything that we know about the Shrine of the Depths. I do wish that we had gotten the story arc of the original Clone Wars Season 7, as learning more about the Sith site seems incredibly important to the overall narrative and history of the Jedi versus Sith conflict. But what's more is that answers a great deal of questions about Order 66 and the fall of the Jedi as a whole. It explains why their sight was blinded by Sidious, why they couldn't sense Order 66, and how they didn't sense Anakin's intentions when he marched upon the temple. In some ways, Anakin marching on the temple would be a great homecoming for the Sith. But tell us, what are your thoughts about this? What are your thoughts on George Lucas's vision of the Old Republic, and how the Sith ruled the galaxy for thousands of years? And one day, will we get more information on the Sith Shrine in the depths of the Jedi Temple? As always, my friends, thank you so much for stopping by our archives today, and as always, may the Force be with you, and we hope to hear from you soon.